Hi everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, The Last Angry Geek. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about X-Men Days of Future Past. If you know me, you know I've been talking up this film. I've been waiting for it. It's probably the summer superhero movie I've most been looking forward to. I just saw it. What did I think? Well, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's, I don't know if it's as good as First Class, but it's at least as good as X-Men and X2. And of course, it's way better than Last Stand. There were a lot of good things about it. I like that Bryan Singer drew a lot of parallels to his previous films. For instance, First Class and X-Men 1 opened with Magneto being marched down the aisles by the Nazis. This one opens with humanity and mutants being marched down the aisles by the Sentinels. So there's, parallels there. The chess game between Xavier and Professor X returns. It's always been a long-standing part of the series. So I like that there were things that happened that reminded me of the previous movies. It showed me that Singer was drawing on the past as well as looking to the future of the series. There was a good swerve. They make you think that Magneto's going to be working with Xavier just like in First Class, that they're going to team up throughout the entire movie, and then about halfway through, Magneto just kind of goes on his own, goes rogue. Shows you that Magneto still just hasn't learned his lesson. He's not going to change, at least not for a long time, until the distant future when he's Ian McKellen working with Patrick Stewart. But Magneto just decides that it's still easier just to kill the people than try and change their minds. He's still got that fundamental flaw. It's just, he'll change the world, but he'll do it by tearing it down, not by changing it from within. So I didn't expect him to go rogue, and he did, and that was a nice surprise. So then all of a sudden, that just makes things that much tougher for Xavier, Beast, and Wolverine, who were kind of the X-Men in this film. I thought they used the previous cast well, the modern-day X-Men, now in the future. Dealing with the Sentinels. I thought they did them well, but there wasn't much drama there, except maybe there was some drama with Kitty and trying to keep Wolverine's mind in the past. But for the most part, they were there for the action sequences. And the new kids they brought in as the mutants, I thought, were pretty good. Omar Sy, I thought, was fantastic as Bishop. The others were all there for like the special effects stuff. I mean, there wasn't much for Warpath, Cannonball to do. Blink, whoever did the special effects for this movie should write a long thank you letter to Valve for the Portal games, because that gave them so many ideas for Blink. If the Portal games had never come out, I don't think Blink would have been in this movie. I don't think Blink would have been as effective or as interesting visually if they hadn't had those Portal games. They took really advantage of that, especially with like using the Colossus being his own fastball special for once, essentially with the Blink portals to have him take out the Sentinels. Storm was wasted in this movie, but that was nobody's fault. Halle Berry was preggers. They couldn't really do much with her. With the original First Class members coming back, I was very glad that they dealt with the mutants who were in the previous film who didn't show up in this one. It's 10 years in the future. Granted, some would have moved on and such, but at least visually they showed us what happened to these characters. And I'm glad they did that, because I was wondering, well, what happened to the Brotherhood? What happened to Banshee? And they do deal with that. Havoc was another guy who was kind of wasted. I kind of wish he'd been still at the Xavier School, or at least when he came back from Vietnam and went to work with Xavier. He was just there to have somebody for Raven to interact with, and it was kind of a wasted moment. The last movie was Charles and Eric's film. This movie was definitely Charles and Raven's film. It was all about the kind of relationship Mystique had with the two characters, and really was about him desperately trying to reach the good person he knew was inside before she went down this road. And the original Days of Future Past was about stopping Mystique from doing an assassination, so I'm very glad that they kept that element in there. I mean, it makes her the wildcard character. The one consequence of this is that so much concentration was put on Jennifer Lawrence's character, and as her star has risen, she's become a bigger and bigger star in Hollywood. It makes sense that they would expand her character's role and take advantage of having this huge star in their movie. So she became a much more prominent, important character. But on the side, that kind of took away from Michael Fassbender's time. It didn't really feel like Magneto had much to do in this movie. There wasn't as much character development as there was in First Class, nor should there be, because First Class was getting Charles and Xavier to the point where they're Professor X and Magneto. Here it's about Mystique's redemption and the bond she has with Xavier. But at the same point, I enjoyed Michael Fassbender so much in First Class. It was kind of a disappointment to see him not get to do as much. I mean, he had some good scenes with Raven, and the scene on the plane with Xavier was good, but I wish there'd been more, because he's an excellent actor, and I enjoyed him so much in First Class. Beast was another one who's kind of wasted. Granted, he didn't have all that much to do in the last one, except kind of be Xavier's tech guy. Here he was Xavier's dealer, and that was just kind of weird. I mean, it's hard watching him give the drugs and then seeing Xavier shoot up, and it's like, oh my god, wait, what? And also, he invents a chemical that cures spinal damage. What? There were a lot of hard logic leaps that I just couldn't buy with that, with Xavier walking again. I don't think Xavier needed to walk again. And Beast, I wish he'd had more to do other than just be basically Xavier's butler and his dealer, and that was just weird. I like the action sequences, but essentially he was this film's Hulk, the genius who turns into a monster. I mean, come on. That's been done. We all know that's been done. Hugh Jackman was fine in this film, not as good as the Wolverine, but then he was part of an ensemble in this one. I think he handled the mentor role well, going back in time and trying to be the gentle voice. The only scene I really, really liked him in was when he sees Stryker and he starts having the freak out in the flashbacks. I thought the use of flashbacks was good in this film and how it brought forward the original X-Men trilogy, the loss of Jean, the eventual William Stryker stuff. So I liked how they did that. James McAvoy, he was good as Xavier. Again, it was hard watching Xavier shoot up. I don't necessarily know if I needed him to walk again. He was walking, so we lost everything. I mean, it wouldn't have been just as sad if he lost the use of his powers because he stopped believing himself and he kind of put a mental block on himself. It just seemed like a weird conceit that he didn't have his power so he could walk again, but then the school's falling apart because of the Vietnam War and everyone's left and it all just didn't work out, so he's become a horrible drunk. I mean, I don't know if I needed Xavier walking in this film. I probably didn't. Should mention Shawn Ashmore. I thought he did a great job, but again, not a whole lot of drama for the original cast. Mostly action sequences. And also, I never thought I'd say this, but Quicksilver steals the show. Evan Peters was great as Quicksilver. He has such fun with the role. They have such fun with the character. I found myself wishing he'd been in the entire movie. I don't think it's any surprise they're bringing him back for X-Men Apocalypse. The If I Could Keep Time in a Bottle scene is the best scene in the entire movie. I had such fun with that. Everyone was laughing. Everyone really enjoyed that. That's a great scene. Joss Whedon, you've got a lot to live up to with your Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. But Evan Peters did a great job. That was a terrible wig, but X-Men has had a lot of terrible wigs in their franchise. I had issues with the Sentinels. I thought they looked fine in the 70s version, and even in the future version. Well, they didn't look like Nimrod or any future Sentinel I've ever seen. I think they were effective enough in the way they looked in the CGI for the battle scenes. And okay, I get how Magneto could control them by putting metal in them. He could force them to walk like puppets, but how did he get them to use their weapons, and how did he order them to attack Beast and Wolverine with just metal rods in them? They still had computer brains. How did they obey him? That didn't make sense. And how do you graft mutant DNA onto a machine? Okay, it's future tech. I won't worry too much about that one, but there were a few logic problems with the Sentinels. Although that whole scene of Magneto lifting the stadium up, that was cool. Finally, Peter Dinklage. Peter did a great job. My one complaint is I wish he interacted with the main cast a little more. I really do. Because he's just such a good actor, and I would have liked to see him playing off McAvoy, Fassbender, Jackman. But he did a great job as the kind of amoral scientist who just is pushing his ideas just so he can see them completed. It's not even that he's a racist or a bigot. He doesn't even hate mutants. It's just he's invented this thing and he wants it made. He wants to see it go through, even if he has to deal with the Vietnamese government who we've just been at war with. Even if he has to lie to the president, he's gonna see his machines get made. I mean, that one painting in his office of him handing the prosthetic leg to the child in a wheelchair, that just shows the character has a messiah complex. He was more or less Dr. Frankenstein. It's just if he'd thought about it, he would have realized he was creating a monster and stopped. Trask didn't care. One way or another, he was going to make his Sentinels. And there's kind of a blind drive and ambition in those types of characters that's admirable, but without the morality and foresight to stop themselves when they go too far, they become monsters, and it leads to Days of Future Past. I like this movie a lot. I don't think I liked it as much as I like Captain America 2. Okay. But it is a good film, and I do think everybody should see it. It has a lot of good relationships between the characters, some good action sequences, and it really connects the first-class cast with the original trilogy cast. And stay for the end credits. After the credits, there's one final scene that sets up X-Men Apocalypse, where we get to see Ensa Banur, but I wonder who those four guys on the horses were behind him. That's probably not important. Anyway, I'm the Last Angry Geek, and I'll see you next time on Comic Book Issues. Go see X-Men Days of Future Past. You'll really like it. Bye.